Hello everyone, I'm Simon Smith, the British Ambassador to South Korea. Firstly, let me thank the organisers of the first Korea-UK Joint Conference on Connected and Automated Mobility for allowing me to speak at today's event. And my special thanks to Professor Hong Song-soo, Vice Chairman of the Korea Society of Automotive Engineers, and Robert Evans, CEO of Cenex, who've worked closely with my team at the British Embassy, Seoul, to enable this joint initiative today. The UK and Korea lead the world in connected and automated mobility, CAM. And today's event is a great chance to showcase new technologies and business models that will change the way we use vehicles in the future. The shift to connected and autonomous vehicles, or CAV, is going to be one of the biggest transitions of the industrial age. Put simply, CAVs are set to transform the world by fundamentally altering the way people and goods are moved. The potential benefits are huge. However, the scale of the challenge faced is equally significant. No one company or country has all the answers. Collaboration and partnership will be essential for the successful development of future mobility. With world-leading automotive technology, engineering and innovative solutions, the UK is uniquely well placed to be at the forefront of the CAV market, which has the potential to be worth £51 billion a year to the UK economy by 2030. We are leading the way in the development and testing of CAVs. Autonomous driving trials are taking place in multiple UK cities, and there are 6 core CAV test beds, all within a 3-hour drive. The CAV market in both Korea and the UK is expected to grow rapidly, and there's no doubt that CAM technologies will help enable us to meet the challenges of tomorrow. And of all these challenges, climate change is unquestionably the most serious. Emissions from road transport now account for over 10% of the global total, a figure which continues to rise as the global vehicle fleet expands. In the last 5 years, we've seen remarkable growth in the global sales volume of new electric vehicles. In Germany, in August 2020, 13% of all new car sales were electric. In the UK, we currently have 164,000 pure electric vehicles on the road, a number which is growing rapidly and which adds to the nearly 375,000 plug-in hybrid vehicles already on UK roads. In the 100 years since the first commercially successful internal combustion engine was developed, the cars we use have grown steadily faster and more powerful. Until recently, however, manufacturers have struggled to develop cars which don't damage our environment. And we need to be clear that despite the recent uplift in the sales of zero-emissions vehicles, 98% of the cars sold globally are still ICEs. As of right now, then, our mobility continues to be dependent on the technology of the 20th century. This simply has to change. Over the course of the next decade, we're likely to see more innovation in this sector than in the last 100 years combined. This automotive revolution will be driven by necessity. We must now act to combat climate change before it's too late. If we fail to achieve this, no country will avoid the impact of further global temperature increases. As we've seen this year, we're already facing serious challenges to the natural environment in the form of heat waves and forest fires of increased frequency and severity. Over recent months here in Korea, we've seen numerous typhoons and the longest monsoon on record. And with costs of failing to act becoming ever more apparent, governments are increasingly taking action to mitigate further temperature rises. In 2019, the UK legislated for net zero 2050 emissions. All UK government policy now has to take this legally binding commitment into account. And this is already leading to policy changes, not just within our energy mix, but also in key sectors such as transport. Earlier this year, with the 2050 net zero emissions target firmly in mind, the UK government initiated a consultation to bring forward the phase-out date for the internal combustion engine from 2040 to 2035, and if possible, sooner. A final decision on when we will implement our ban on the sale of ICE vehicles is due in the coming weeks, with a number of options on the table. The UK's Committee for Climate Change has advised that a 2032 ban on the sale of new ICEs is essential in order to achieve 2050 net zero, as a phase-out date any later than 2032 would leave too many polluting ICE vehicles on the road at mid-century. Encouragingly, given their vested interests, BP and Shell have confirmed that the necessary infrastructure for the transition to electrification can be put in place by the early 2030s. The same is true of the UK's own national grid. These commitments are important and demonstrate the pace at which big business can respond to enable green transitions once government provides certainty over the direction of travel. Ultimately, the UK believes that a ban on ICEs will not just be good for the environment, but also for our wider economy. The UK's experience demonstrates that it's possible for green growth to accompany economic growth. Since 1990, we've grown and decarbonised our economy faster than any other G7 country. We've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 43%, while growing our GDP by 2/3. We've done this by providing initial regulatory support, whilst also setting out our decarbonisation ambition in law through the UK's Climate Change Act. Decarbonisation is not just something that we would like to do, it's something that we legally have to do. This legal requirement provides long-term policy certainty for business and enables them to make the right investments in the future. In November 2021, the UK will host COP26. This will be the most important meeting of the parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change since the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015. One of the key messages will be that global green growth simply must underpin our COVID-19 recovery. A back-to-business-as-usual approach would quite simply be a pathway to disaster. As we face the challenge of climate change, we have the chance to turn an existential risk into the greatest commercial opportunity of our time. But to manage these transitions, we need a whole-of-economy transformation. A ban on ICEs, for example, will affect not only manufacturers, but also current and future supply chains, customers, researchers, banks, and insurers. At COP26, we must deliver strong and coordinated action to facilitate the transition to zero emissions vehicles. This will allow us to scale up the production of zero emission vehicles, increase economies of scale, and drive down the cost of battery and fuel cell EVs, and ultimately quicken the pace of transition to electrification. In the coming years, the automotive sector will help to deliver transformations which will forever change the way that people live, work, and travel. Electric, autonomous, and zero-emission vehicles will not only transform the way we travel, perhaps even more crucially, they'll also help to clean up our air. How we accelerate this transition is then one of the most pressing issues in modern transport. The UK's automotive relationship with Korea goes back many years. Working together now on the technologies of the future can only bring further success. Thank you.